Hey everyone, today I would like to talk to you about the final merits analysis. My name is Priya Alagiri. I founded the Alagiri Immigration Law Firm. We focus on EB-1A visas for engineers. I've been practicing well over 15 years, and we are a niche boutique law firm focused on this one visa, the EB-1A visa for one demographic, and that is engineers. So let's talk final merit. So if you've been looking or researching about the EB-1A, you will see in the last year a lot of talk about the final merits. It has been around. So the final merit step is the second step of a two-step EB-1A evaluation process. So just to back up a bit, so the EB-1A is a two-step process. The Immigration Service officer in step one will look to see whether you meet at least 3 out of the 10 regulatory criteria. And you can look at some of my other videos about what are the 10 criteria. I won't discuss them in detail in this video. I want to focus on the second step. So the first step is meeting the criteria, which is listed in the regulations. The immigration officer will go through, see if you meet at least 3. If you do meet at least 3, then the immigration officer will go to the second step of the EB-1A evaluation process. So this second step was introduced in 2010. It didn't exist before. And there was a federal district court case in 2010 that kind of vaguely referenced this final merits analysis. So the Immigration Service picked up on that and they added it to the EB-1A evaluation process. You have probably heard that it's highly controversial. This final merits second step analysis, and that is because it did not go through the proper channels to make or add an additional requirement to the EB-1A visa. So the EB-1A visa is a law, right? There's it's written out, there are regulations that are supposed to be followed, but if you notice, the final merits is not part of the law. So the law was not amended to include this final merits analysis, yet the Immigration Service kind of adopted it. They've been going with it since 2010. There's been a lot of litigation to overcome it and to explain how it's really an unlawful requirement. And in one of my other videos, I explained that one federal district court in Nebraska did rule that it's an unlawful requirement. But unfortunately, the Immigration Service doesn't have to follow what the Nebraska court said unless you're applying in Nebraska. So for most of us, we have to follow this two-step process, the second step, but there is continuing to be litigation. But anyway, it has been around since 2010, but it's gotten a lot of buzz in the last year or so with the new government. So for the first time, really, we're seeing a lot of questioning or RFEs around the final merits and maybe even denials just based on final merits. That's a new, kind of a really new trend, I would say. So there's a lot of, like I said, buzz around the final merits, a lot of noise around it. And so that's why I wanted to address it. What does it mean, final merit? So we have, since 2010, we've not gotten any concrete guidance on what they're looking for. It's very subjective. There's nothing that the Immigration Service has ever pointed to explain what they're looking for in the final merits. All we really know thus far is that they're going to look at the entirety of your evidence. So instead of looking at each criteria, whether you meet each criteria, they're kind of going to put it all together. And in their mind, again, it's subjective. They're going to decide if you are at the top of your field. So the wording is you are among the small percentage at the top of your field. And again, it's vague. It's subjective, no concrete guidance given, but I can tell you that this is the step where quality of your evidence matters. So how can you overcome the final merits analysis? How can you prove to the officer you're one of those at the small percentage at the top of your field? Focus on the quality of your evidence, right? So, for example, if one of your criteria that you're applying for is scholarly articles. This isn't just an example. So you can author a scholarly article, maybe you can publish it somewhere, and maybe you do check that box for that criteria. But under the final merits, the officer will look at the quality of that evidence. What did you write? Where was it published? How was it cited? You don't need citations, but if you have them, maybe who cited it, and maybe you can even discuss that in your final merits argument. But they'll look at the quality of your paper and again, where it was published. So definitely explain that the platform it was published in is distinguished and went through this really selective vetting process and things like that. So you have to explain that not only do you check the box, but you blew it out of the water. That's basically it. Another example, your testimonial letters. As I've spoken many times in the past, the testimonial letters are important. They're not character references, right? They're not job references. They really are evidence to support your criteria. So they will look to see, who are your reference letters from? Are they from people who are your colleagues, coworkers, friends, family? Or are they from other external objective experts in the domain? So it's things like that. It's hard to explain, but the way I can explain it best is this is where quality of your evidence matters. And it also matters to explain to the immigration officer in your final merits section. If you are writing, explaining to the immigration officer, include a little section explaining how you meet the criteria in a very high level way. Explain to them, walk them through, why is this conference distinguished? Why is your your scholarly article really noteworthy? If you want to look at your role, leading or critical role is another criteria, right? Maybe you want an award internally at your company. maybe you were recognized. So like really explain these things, that the quality, like how you meet each of the criteria, explain to them how strong you meet them. So like I said, so the final merits is a two-step analysis. It's more important these days than it has been, when about a year ago. So you should focus on quality, but also included in the final merits analysis is an evaluation of whether you have maintained, sustained a claim. Okay, so these are more words. Now you have final merits, and I've explained that. So now there's a lot of focus on sustained a claim, which is again separate from how you meet the criteria. So you have the criteria, you've met those, and now the immigration officer is doing this other evaluation, totality of the circumstances evaluation, which is pretty vague, and no guidance. And I've explained the quality of the evidence, what they're looking for, but they're also looking for this thing called sustained a claim. And that means that they are looking to see that your accomplishments have been maintained for a period of time. So they don't explain what that period of time is, but we can surmise that it's not just like one accomplishment, right? At some point in your past. Let's just say you're applying for the EB-1A now, but in, I don't know, in grad school, you discovered something phenomenal, but that was like 10 years ago. That's great. But unfortunately, it won't pass the sustained acclaim analysis. So again, it has to be, great. If you did something in grad school that's really noteworthy, that's great. But what they're going to look for is that you're continuing to accomplish, significant things. So one and done type of thing is not going to qualify for the EB-1A. But then again, if you all of a sudden, let's just say you're applying now in 2026 for your EB-1A, and just at the end of 2025, you authored all these articles, you spoke at all these places, and they'll see that it's all very recent. And prior to that, there wasn't really much. So that's unlikely to pass a sustained acclaim evaluation. Again, they don't give us a lot of guidance. They don't really say, we're going to look back for this period of time. But I guess you just have to just look at the entirety of your career. And, usually we go back 5 to 7 years and, explain your accomplishments and that what you've sustained in those last 5 to 7 years. So there you go. We would love to help you. We work on these applications all day, every day. It's all we do here.